The Supreme Court just told the government it collected $166 billion illegally. Not questionably, not aggressively, illegally. 6-3 was the vote. The tariffs you've been paying on every appliance, every cabinet, every fixture, every piece of tile that went into your home for the last year is all declared unconstitutional. And if you're sitting there on your inexplicably expensive couch thinking, well, good, so we're all getting refunds, right? Well, I need you to hear this next part carefully, because what's about to happen with that $166 billion is as brazen as a burglar suing you for the locksmith bill. There will be refunds though, and the portal opens April 20th. Here's the first thing you need to know. If you renovated your home, replaced an appliance, fixed a roof, or did anything to your property in the last 14 months, you overpaid. Not by a little. The National Association of Home Builders put the number at $10,900 per home, and that number is now baked into your property tax assessment. So I'm going to show you how smart homeowners are clawing this money back, and the third method is the one I doubt you'll hear anywhere else. So here are the players in this mess. Player number one, Customs and Border Protection. They collected $166 billion across 53 million shipments from over 330,000 importers. The Supreme Court ordered them to return the funds. Now, the CBP said in their court filing that processing these funds manually would take 4.4 million staff hours. They collected so much money that they cannot mathematically figure out how to give it back. So they've opted to refund via a portal called CAPE. Player two now, the importers. Costco, Walmart, Target, Home Depot suppliers, the lumber wholesalers. They're the ones who wrote the check to the CBP, and they're the ones getting the refund. Now, player three, you're the one who actually paid for it through higher prices at the register, higher quotes from your contractor, and higher costs on every DIY project you took on. Now, here's where it gets ugly. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the guy who's supposed to be managing all of this, went on camera and said, and I'm going to quote him here, that Costco's customers likely wouldn't see a cent of any refund the company gets, because there is currently no legal requirement for any company to share a single dollar on that refund with the customers who absorbed the cost. So here's what I know some fed up and determined homeowners are planning to do. They'll be making calls to their contractors, the ones who did their kitchen, their roof, their bathroom, whatever they touched in the last year. And they're going to ask them who their supplier is, and ask the supplier if they're filing a CAPE claim when the portal opens April 20th. Because if they imported tariffed materials for your project, they are about to get a windfall. And you may not have a legal claim to that money, but you do have some leverage, especially if you're a repeat customer or you're planning more work, or if you have an internet connection and a Yelp account. It's the squeaky wheel approach, and they're planning to make it public. They're going to make it weird on these importers because they know, and now you know, exactly where that money came from. Your pocket. The second move, the property tax play. Pull your most recent assessment. If you made any improvements to your home between February 25 and February 2026, your county valued those improvements at tariff-inflated prices. The cabinets that cost you 25% more than they should have. The tile that cost you 50% more. The appliances that went up twice as fast as regular inflation. All of that is baked into your assessed value. And so, the tariffs are gone. Your assessment isn't. You may have grounds to appeal. And if you're in Texas, your deadline is May 15th. So I put together a resource that walks you through the whole process at fightmyassessment.com. Do not let the county tax you forever on an illegal price spike. Now here's the part most people miss. The Supreme Court killed the tariffs that were ruled illegal, but not all tariffs went away. The tariffs on steel, aluminum, copper, and lumber, 50%, those are permanent. Different law, different court case, not going anywhere. But the replacement tariff the administration slapped on everything else, your tile, your fixtures, your finishes, your appliance components, that one expires July 24th by law, and it's probably not getting renewed. So there are two buckets, permanent stuff and temporary stuff. And they're sitting on the same contractor's quote. Smart investors and homeowners already figured this out. They're locking in prices on steel and lumber right now because those aren't dropping. But the finishes and fixtures, they're waiting until after July 24th. Two timelines on the same project. And nobody told you that was an option, did they? No, of course not. Now the third solution, if you're planning any project in the next 12 months, get your contractor to itemize every material on your quote. Ask specifically, which of these are imported, which are domestic? Which ones carry the permanent Section 232 tariff, and which ones fall under the temporary Section 122 tariff that expires July 24th? That one question gives you the leverage to time your purchases. Lock in the permanent stuff now, wait on the temporary stuff. And while you're at it, ask about domestic alternatives. American-made porcelain tile, engineered stone, plumbing fixtures. They're suddenly price competitive because the imports got taxed into the stratosphere. Now, I know how this sounds. I mean, Matt's telling me to harass suppliers I've never met, challenge my property taxes, time my renovation around obscure 1974 government trade policy. I don't have time for all this. And yeah, I get it. A year ago, I would have said that sounds crazy too and probably ignored it. But you've been around long enough to know that when the government puts a hurdle in front of us, most people take the detour and just pay the toll. We've been rolling over and taking it in the you-know-what for as long as we can remember. And it ain't gonna change unless we do. And that right there may sound a little bit like a cliche, but it's one more and more people I think are starting to take seriously. For example, from a very unlikely source I heard the other day, the guy out of Hollywood, as left-leaning as they come. The kind of guy that I'd normally change the channel on in about 4 seconds. But he said something that caused me to pause and actually hear him out. He said while TSA agents spent 6 weeks working without a paycheck, people making $35,000, $40,000 a year, selling plasma, sleeping in their cars at airports. While they were doing that, Congress left for a 2-week Easter recess with no deal in place. The shutdown is still going on. It's the longest in American history. And while those agents were standing in food lines, TMZ started posting pictures of where Congress actually was. Lindsey Graham at Disney World, Cory Booker at a swanky hotel in West Hollywood, and 30 members of Congress, 30, touring a castle in Edinburgh, Scotland, on your dime. A taxpayer-funded trip to tour a castle while a TSA officer named Rebecca is on camera saying her last paycheck was $1,300 on February 28th. She can't make rent, and she's thinking about selling her car to feed her grandkids. I couldn't help but agree with his solution, as it mimics what I've been saying for years. Vote every single one of them out. All of them. Even the ones you like. Because the $39 trillion in debt didn't come from one party. It came from all of them. And the only thing that's going to make them find Jesus is if they believe we're actually serious about replacing them. And the fact that someone on the far left and a real estate capitalist from Las Vegas arrived at the exact same conclusion, that should tell you something. This is all starting to feel less and less like left versus right, but rather the people who make the rules versus the people who live under them. And homeowners, regardless of who you voted for, you're getting it from both sides. Now the point I'm making here is, these little hits, they keep coming, and by themselves, they feel small enough to shrug off. A few extra bucks on the cabinets, a property tax bill that's a little bit higher than last year, a gallon of gas that jumps 50 cents in a week. We absorb it, we roll over, we move on. But they stack, and over time, those little hits aren't little anymore. They're the reason your retirement looks different than you planned. They're the reason your kids can't afford the neighborhood you raised them in. And they're the consequences we're handing to the next generation because we didn't push back when it was our turn. Now, do that with what you want. I'm no preacher. I ain't perfect. You'll get no judgment from me. But you know, the older you get, the more you start to think about these types of things. So for the time being, in the context of this video, you've got 2 choices. You can do nothing, hope the prices come down on their own, hope that Costco feels generous, hope your county magically adjusts your assessment without you asking. You can hope for a miracle that Congress can actually exhibit some competence at something other than pointing fingers 24/7. Or you can spend 20 minutes this weekend, pull your property tax assessment, call your contractor, ask the one question about which materials are permanent and which one expires July 24th, and position yourself for a window that most homeowners don't even know exists. One of those is a strategy. The other is a wish. And look, tariffs were supposed to be simple. A tax on imports. Straightforward. But once you pull the thread, there are 4 layers between your wallet and the people who are supposed to be giving the money back. That's just one system. Imagine what you'd find if you pulled the thread on the 6 institutions that are supposed to be protecting everything else you own. That's exactly why I pulled this video out here for you to watch next. Because the cracks aren't just in trade policy. And the 3 moves you make to protect yourself look a lot different once you can see all 6 at once. So take a look. You'll see what I mean. And so I'll see you there. And if not, hey, I'll see you next time. God loves you, and so do I. Take care.